The first day at Brookfield Academy was supposed to be just another new beginning for Malik Jefferson, a quiet boy from Willow Creek. But nothing about this day was ordinary. As he walked through the gleaming halls, whispers and sideways glances followed him like shadows, marking him instantly as other. He carried nothing but a patched backpack and the weight of every stereotype that had ever been thrown at him. Then in front of the entire student body and faculty, the headmaster, Mr. Bradford Harper, called him onto the stage. The murmurs turned into snickers. Everyone expected humiliation. Everyone expected failure. But Malik's fingers met the piano keys, and the first hesitant note cut through the auditorium like a spark. What started as a cruel joke became a moment no one would ever forget. In that instant, Malik was not just playing music. He was rewriting the rules, challenging every assumption, and daring the world to see him differently. The first day at Brookfield Academy hit Malik Jefferson like a storm he wasn't prepared for. Even before he stepped through the polished glass doors, the air seemed charged with silent judgment. The sprawling campus, manicured lawns, and gleaming halls were the kind of environment where appearances spoke louder than talent, and Malik, skin-rich brown, backpack patched from years of wear, shoes scuffed and slightly too big, felt painfully out of place. He had earned his spot through a scholarship, a lifeline gifted by his late mother's friend, and the tireless devotion of his grandmother, Evelyn, who had raised him in the narrow Maplewood District apartments. But here, at a school filled with the offspring of wealth, he was invisible, or worse, a source of amusement. As he walked down the hall toward room 3C, Malik's shoulders hunched against the weight of eyes that measured him, assessed him, dismissed him. Whispers flitted past like icy gusts. Isn't that the scholarship kid? Look at his shoes, used, obviously. He caught fragments of laughter, quiet but cutting, and tried to ignore them, focusing on keeping his pace steady. At 7, he had learned how to carry the weight of other people's doubt quietly. At 13, he carried it like armor. Inside the classroom, the scene only worsened. Students glanced up with smirks, already shaping the narrative in their heads. The teacher barely acknowledged him, gesturing vaguely toward the last desk. Malik slid into it without a word, pulling out his notebook, pretending the murmurs didn't slice through him. Every note he wrote, every equation he copied, felt like a protest against the unspoken hierarchy around him. His skin color, his modest clothes, his background, they were all markers that made him other. During lunch, Malik found a corner beneath a sprawling oak on the academy's immaculate lawn. He unwrapped the sandwich Evelyn had prepared, each bite infused with her encouragement. You have a gift, Malik, a gift that no one can take from you. The piano at home had been that gift, a sanctuary where the weight of judgment couldn't follow. He thought of the cracked keys in the basement of their tiny apartment, of the hours he and Evelyn had spent shaping melodies from silence, and a small flame of resolve kindled within him. It wasn't long before Mr. Clayton Harper, the imposing headmaster with silver-streaked hair and a tailored suit, approached Malik. His shadow loomed like a warning. "Do you play an instrument, young man?" he asked, his tone so even Malik didn't sense the sarcasm yet. "Yes, sir," Malik replied quietly. "A little piano," he added, unsure why the man was addressing him directly. Harper's brow arched, a smirk flickering across his face like he'd just discovered a private joke. "Interesting," he said and turned away, leaving Malik with a strange knot in his stomach. By midweek, the rumors had escalated. A talent show was announced for Friday evening, a high-profile event for parents and students alike. According to some veiled suggestion from Harper, Malik would be opening the show on piano. Laughter erupted across classrooms. Tyler Grayson, the heir to a chain of upscale restaurants, chuckled loudly, drawing applause from a few girls who followed him blindly. "Oh, this is going to be rich," one whispered. Malik froze, a swirl of fear, embarrassment, and anger spinning inside him. He wanted to shrink into the floor, to disappear from this world that had already branded him a joke. That evening, walking home along the cracked sidewalks of Willow Creek, Malik replayed the scenario over and over. Should he refuse? Should he hide? But he remembered Evelyn's words echoing in his mind. If they want to laugh, let them. But never bow your head when you have your heart and hands full of usik. For the first time, a decision crystallized. He would perform, Not for them, not for applause, but for himself and for every quiet voice that had been dismissed. Friday arrived with heavy clouds, reflecting the tension in the air. The corridors buzzed with students speculating, smartphones raised to record what they thought would be a spectacle. Malik's stomach twisted with anxiety, yet beneath the fear was a steady flame of purpose. Each step toward the auditorium felt like carrying the weight of every stereotype that had been forced onto him, every whispered insult, every glance that said, "You don't belong here." Inside the auditorium of Brookfield Academy, Malik's pulse thundered. Parents in designer coats, students in crisp uniforms, and teachers lined up with polite smiles awaited the show. He adjusted the worn shirt Evelyn had ironed for him, tugged the two large shoes snugly over his feet, and approached the piano. The polished instrument gleamed under the stage lights, almost mocking in its perfection. Harper gave a quick, formal introduction, emphasizing diversity and inclusion in a tone dripping with pretense, and gestured to Malik. "Our new student, Jordan Carter," he said, voice flat, a hint of challenge in his eyes. Malik's fingers trembled as he lowered himself onto the bench. The auditorium was silent, but the tension was palpable, a physical weight pressing down. Then he closed his eyes. He didn't play for approval, for clapping, or for recognition. He played for every ounce of doubt, every sneer, every shadow of fear that had followed him from Maplewood District into this hall. Each note wove his story: struggle, resilience, hope. The laughter that had been expected vanished. The whispers ceased. The music filled the room with something raw, true, and undeniable. As the last note lingered in the warm air, there was a single moment of stunned silence. Then applause broke out, first hesitant, then overwhelming, erupting from parents, students, and teachers alike. Some were moved to tears, others simply stood, silent but changed. Malik exhaled, a release he hadn't known he needed, a validation that had nothing to do with wealth or privilege, everything to do with courage and honesty. Harper remained rigid in the back, jaw tight, witnessing the failure of the humiliation he had planned. Malik descended from the stage, not with pride, but relief. For the first time, he felt seen. Not as the scholarship kid, not as the other, but as Jordan Carter, a young man whose gift and determination could not be ignored. Teachers approached to shake his hand, students who had laughed before averted their eyes, unsure how to reconcile what they had witnessed. Evelyn waited just outside, beaming with pride, the glow of her hard work and love reflected in Malik's calm smile. It was a quiet revolution, one note at a time, one courage-filled performance, proving that integrity, talent, and perseverance could transcend prejudice, even in a world that tried to render him invisible. Malik's journey had just begun, but Friday night had already shifted the academy, opening doors not just for him, but for every student marginalized and underestimated. Do you think Malik made the right choice by performing even though he was being humiliated? After his breathtaking performance at the Brookfield Academy Talent Showcase, Malik Jefferson thought the storm of scrutiny had passed, but storms rarely dissipate so easily. In the days that followed, whispers lingered in the hallways, eyes followed him with a mixture of awe and envy, and Mr. Bradford Harper, the headmaster, began to show his true colors. The man's carefully polished facade of fairness cracked when he saw the respect Malik had earned from both students and faculty. Harper's subtle smirk faded into a shadow of unease as he realized the young boy he had meant to humiliate had become a symbol of quiet defiance. Malik, however, remained focused. Each morning he rose before the sun to practice, fingers gliding across the old keyboard in his Maplewood District apartment, Evelyn by his side as she hummed along. The piano had been battered over decades, some keys stuck or chipped, yet it sang with a warmth no modern grand could match. Evelyn, her hands weathered from years of work, still polished each key before letting Malik play, whispering encouragement, reminding him that their struggle had a purpose. "You're telling your story, Malik. Every note is your truth," she would say. At school, tensions escalated. Harper began to meddle in ways that were almost invisible, but heavy with implication. Music class schedules were shifted, auditions for upcoming showcases were quietly postponed, and Malik found himself excluded from certain extracurricular rehearsals. Yet everywhere he turned, Miss Lillian Brooks, his music teacher, stood firmly beside him. She had taught at Brookfield for nearly 2 decades and knew Harper's patterns. Any student who disrupted his control of the school's hierarchy would be subtly silenced. But she refused to let Malik be another casualty. Meanwhile, Tyler Grayson and a group of affluent students began plotting in whispers, scheming ways to undermine Malik's credibility. They spread rumors that his performance had been rehearsed with outside help, that his scholarship was undeserved. Some teachers noticed, some ignored it, but the atmosphere in the school had shifted. Malik, who had always been reserved, felt a surge of pressure that no amount of piano practice could relieve. It was a silent war waged with smiles and carefully chosen words. One afternoon during history class, a staff member delivered an envelope to Malik's desk. Inside was an invitation to audition for the Harmony Conservatory, the city's most prestigious music program. Ms. Brooks leaned in, eyes shining. "This is your chance, Malik. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Your music belongs out there." Malik's heart raced, exhilaration and fear entwined. Harper, watching from the administrative office, noticed Malik's reaction and immediately perceived it as a threat. If Malik succeeded beyond Brookfield, Harper's authority would be further eroded. On the following Friday, Malik returned to the auditorium, this time for an internal showcase called Voices of Brookfield. The event was meant to be a simple celebration of student talent, but with Harper interfering behind the scenes, Malik knew it could become another battlefield. Students whispered, and cameras were secretly pointed at the stage. Yet Malik's determination had grown. Every insult, every sideways glance from Tyler Grayson or his friends fueled his resolve. When Malik sat at the grand piano, the weight of the room seemed almost tangible. Parents in fine suits, students in perfectly pressed uniforms, and faculty with expectant expressions all waited. Harper introduced him with formal politeness, words laced with hidden challenge, as if daring him to falter. Malik inhaled deeply, feeling the tension coil inside his chest, and began to play. The first notes were tentative, almost shy, but soon they swelled with confidence and emotion. He poured years of marginalization, of whispered slights and invisible judgments into every chord. The music told a story no words could convey. The quiet strength of a boy who had been underestimated because of the color of his skin, the love of a grandmother who had sacrificed everything for him, and the courage to rise above a world that had tried to render him invisible. Gradually, the laughter Malik had expected from some students dissolved into silence. Eyes widened, jaws slackened. Parents leaned forward, captivated. Teachers exchanged glances, acknowledging the rare genius unfolding before them. Harper's expression, once smug, hardened into a tight line of disbelief. But just as Malik reached the crescendo, an unexpected twist occurred. Tyler Grayson, determined to sabotage him, slipped a phone into the front row, broadcasting the performance live to social media, intending to mock him publicly. The auditorium lights flickered, and a hush fell as everyone realized the footage was visible beyond the room. Malik faltered for a heartbeat, a wave of panic threatening to undo all his courage. Then he remembered Evelyn's words, "Play with everything you are. Let no fear steal your voice." He steadied himself, fingers dancing across the keys with renewed intensity, transforming potential humiliation into triumph. Every note challenged the biases in the room. Every chord was a declaration of dignity. By the final note, the auditorium erupted, not in mockery, but in genuine awe. Teachers clapped with unrestrained pride. Students sat in stunned silence, and parents rose to their feet, some visibly moved to tears. Harper, frozen in the back, realized his control had slipped entirely. Malik had not just survived, he had rewritten the rules of the space he had been forced to navigate. Afterward, Ms. Brooks approached him with a quiet smile. "You didn't just play music, Malik. You changed minds." Malik nodded, exhausted but elated. On the way out, he caught Evelyn waiting, tears brimming in her eyes, her hands reaching for his. She whispered, "You did it, Jordan. You showed them who you really are." Malik squeezed her hand, knowing that every challenge ahead, every audition, every performance, every subtle prejudice he would encounter, was now something he could face with the same courage that had carried him through this storm. The ripple effects were immediate. Students who had whispered cruel jokes now glanced at Malik with hesitation, some offering small nods of respect. Faculty began reconsidering the inequities that had been ignored for years. Harper's authority waned. Even parents questioned his decisions, noticing how one student's courage had exposed long-standing biases. Malik's journey was far from over, but he had transformed the perception of Brookfield Academy, and in doing so, empowered countless others who had ever felt unseen. Audience interaction questions. Do you believe Malik turned what was meant to humiliate him into an act of empowerment? Why or why not? Have you ever seen someone challenge prejudice with calm courage rather than confrontation? How did it affect you? If you were in Malik's position, what would have been the hardest part? Performing under pressure or confronting discrimination? What do you think about Malik's courage in facing prejudice at Brookfield Academy? Do you believe one person can truly change the mindset of an entire community? If this story inspired you, leave the number 111 in the comments below to show your support. Where are you watching from? Share your country in the comments and let others know that stories like Malik's can reach across the world. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family so more people can experience the power of courage, talent, and dignity.